Hi, this is Linn from the Ethical Hacker Network. This is part 2 of the 15-minute network pen test. In part 1, we'd exploited a Windows host after having assessed for vulnerabilities, and we'd launched a Meterpreter shell. Now we're back to talk about some basic Meterpreter skills, password cracking with offcrack, and creating some accounts via command line. You can see from here that we're back at our Meterpreter shell. We've already typed in a get UID and have established that we are an NT-authority system, which is a very highly privileged user on the system. The first thing we want to do before we do anything else is migrate to a more stable process. When exploiting a machine, you can destabilize a process that you exploited, so we want to make sure that we hang on to a stable Meterpreter session. We're going to use the execute command to launch a new Meterpreter, to launch a new process to move Meterpreter 2. So when we type in execute, we see that it has a number of options. We're going to use the -H option in order to hide the process from view. If we don't use this, then if someone's sitting in front of the machine that you're compromising, a window will pop up in front of the screen. And this will make it very obvious that something is amiss. So we want to do a -H, and we're going to do -F for the file name of cmd.exe. We can see that a new process has been launched, and we're going to type in migrate 792. We're going to migrate to this process. In order to make sure after we've migrated that we're correctly migrated, we can type in get PID. We can see that we're currently in 792, and when we type in get UID again, we see that we are still NT-authority system, which is good because we want to maintain the privileges of that highly privileged user. From here, we type in help and we see what other options we have. One of the important modules at this point is going to be the priv module. If you're at this point and you don't see the priv module here in the help section, type in use priv. If you see that the extension's already been loaded, then you already have that module loaded, so you don't need to do anything else. If not, when you type in use priv, it'll go ahead and load this module, and when you type in help again, you should see the #dump command. From here, we're going to type in #dump, and this is the output very similar to like pwdump output would be, and this is a list of all of the NTLM hashes and the NT hashes off the box. So we're going to copy these, and we're going to move them to a file called hashes.txt in temp. So we make sure that all of these appear here. And the next thing we're going to do is load a tool called offcrack. Offcrack is a rainbow tables program, and rainbow tables help us speed up the amount of time that it takes to crack passwords at the expense of a little bit of disk space, but more so, someone has spent some time in the past creating these tables, and it is CPU intensive. So this is something that somebody has spent some time on in the past, and we're actually making use of their previous time. So here we see that we're using the XP free fast tables, which you can download off the offcrack site. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to load our file, and we're going to use it as a pwdump file, because like I said, the output from the #dump is very similar to pwdump, and it should be compatible for our purposes. So we're going to type in temp hashes.txt here, and we can see from here that we have the users, we have our LM hashes and our NT hashes. We can also see that there are a number of places where the LM hashes don't appear. This can be for a number of reasons. For the guest account, the LM hash is probably never set, its NT password is empty, and this account is probably disabled. So for here we see for administrator and a couple of the other users, it's empty as well. This is probably because the password is longer than 14 characters. And if the password is longer than 14 characters, it won't store an LM hash, it will only store an NT hash, because NT hash can store longer than 14 characters. You also see here that the LM password is split up into two parts. We're going to go ahead and start cracking, and then we'll talk about the LM passwords. So you can see these cracking. We have our brute force percentage here. We have how much of the tables are loaded into memory here. We've actually already cracked part 2 of 2 of these passwords. Because the LM hashes are split up into 2 parts of 7 characters, we can crack part of a password faster than another part. So here we've cracked part 2 pretty quickly, of these two passwords, so we know that this is a 9-character password. The last 2 characters are easy, and this is also a 9-character password whose last 2 characters are NS. So as we sit here and watch this for a minute, more of these are going to start popping up, and we can see that we've already cracked some of these. Now, if we wait long enough, more of these will crack, but probably not all of them will crack. And the ones that definitely won't crack are the ones that only have NT hashes, because our rainbow tables are only for LM hashes. So we know we're not going to get the administrator account, and we know we're not going to get the Sesoro account. So we know that we've already cracked a couple of these at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this to reduce some of our CPU load, but this will take probably 5 or 6 minutes in order to finish cracking these. Knowing that we have some of these users already, it may make sense at this point for us to go back in and look at what privileges those users have. So we're going to execute another command shell. And we're going to do an execute again in order to look at our arguments. We're going to dive in execute-H to make it hidden again. We're going to do a -I at this point to interact with it. And also we're going to do our cmd.exe again. Now we have a Windows shell. And from here, we can type in net user in order to find out the users on the system. So when we type in net user, we see a list of our users that we cracked before. So from here, we may want to find out what the users that we cracked, what group they were in. So we can type in net local group administrators. We can see that some of the users that we cracked were in the administrators group. So at this point, you may or may not want to create a new user, but if you do create a new user, it will certainly show whoever you're doing your pen test for that you were able to get to this point. So from here, if we just type in net user and then /?, it will go ahead and pop up our syntax again. So let's create a new user called demo1. We're going to do net user, and then we're going to type in demo1, and then we're going to just use abc123 as our password and type in add. So now we type in net user again, we see that our demo1 user, which is right here, has been created. So next, let's move that user into the administrators group. So we do net local group, and we do another /?. So we can do net local group administrators, and we're type in demo1, and we type in add. So now we have created a demo1 user in our administrators group. To verify that, type in net local group administrators, and we'll see that our demo1 user is successfully in our administrators group. We're going to stop here for right now, but this should give you an idea of where you can go with this type of access. So from here, let's review what we've done so far. And so far, we have looked at our basic Meterpreter skills, our password cracking with offcrack, and creating accounts via command line. And this will complete part 2 of 2 of the 15-minute network pen test. Thank you.